Ladies and sinners, welcome to another Tuesday evening edition of the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Kayle Henderson. We're back at it again, folks. Sorry for the hiatus last week. I was actually out of town for work. I had to go sell, man. Sell, because I got a baby on the way and I got diapers to pay for. You know what I'm saying? That's just kind of the way life is when you have a baby on the way. Not to mention, you'll find out that women are expensive. I say that with a straight face, because I don't think there's a man out there listening that doesn't understand exactly what I'm talking about. You love them. You can't live without them. But, man, they're expensive. And so are kids. So I had to go out last week. No big deal. We're back at it. We got a full show, folks. Full show. I'm your host, Kayle Henderson. This is the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio. You guys can hit us on our Twitter forums at SinCity_IESR, at Kayle_Henderson, where we talk all things Vegas sports, and this is hashtag IE Vegas here. This is the fastest growing sports market in America. You can't change my mind. And with that said, the fastest growing sports market has a full show. We're going to talk A'ja Wilson, the Las Vegas Lady Aces. A'ja Wilson's having an unbelievable season. She's got to be the front runner of the MVP. Las Vegas Lady Aces have gone on a run lately. They're back in contention. It is their third place in their division, or the conference, I should say. But it looks like that could change if they continue their winning ways. The Golden Knights, they are trying to overcome a mass exodus of Stanley Cup players. So 2023, we all know our beloved Golden Knights, Las Vegas Golden Knights, won the Stanley Cup. After 2024 season, they lost nearly half of those players to free agency. So tough turnaround. Let's see what they can do. Jonathan Marchessault news as well. That's a big loss, in my opinion, for the Las Vegas Golden Knights. Sunday ticket lawsuit. Sometimes the consumer must win. It's that simple. If the court system and the justice system are supposed to be real, sometimes the consumer's got to win, man. That's just the way it is. The Raiders. We got to talk about the Raiders. We have an 8 divisions and 8 days segment with Larry B on 3 and Out coming up here in the coming weeks. A lot to cover with our beloved Raiders, including Tom Brady and Richard Seymour possibly joining hands or joining forces to own about 10.5% of ownership shares with the Raiders, something that was blocked to Tom Brady all by himself by the NFL. Will it change if you add more money, or maybe will it change if you have another investor who can kind of meet halfway in the middle in the investment? That'd be badass. Both winners. Interesting. On top of that, Devontae Adams cooked the Chargers' social media. We'll explain what the Chargers did, how they went wrong. I mean, absolutely kill them. That's just the way it is, man. We got to do that. And as always, man, we're going to talk about the Raiders' off-season moves before the 8 divisions in 8 days segment, or filming or recording of that show. And as you folks know, man, we gotta do a quick interlude with our sponsors. Got to play our sponsors here at IE Sports Radio. Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet. And then Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. Listen, folks, these are our sponsors. We also have our platform, IE Sports Radio. You guys can hit up any merch, anything as far as our socials, X, IG, so Instagram for you boomers out there. Just kidding. Facebook, at TikTok, at IE Sports Radio. Make sure you guys are checking out our shop. There's a lot of cool merch, man. Larry does a great job of selecting merch. You know, sometimes I'm telling you, it supports the show, it supports the station, it supports my man and the long hours he puts in. And then you guys can always go to iesportsradio.com/SinCitySports, where you guys can revisit my bio, see that really weird looking Darth Vader picture, you know, doing in the mirror. That's just the way I am. Sorry, guys. On top of that, you guys can listen to our shows and see where we are posted. If you guys miss a show, don't worry about it. Guess what? Larry B's on it because he's posting. IE Sports Radio is available on Apple Pods, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible, Castbox, Deezer, Podcast, Addict, Podchaser, Geosfon. I always mess that up. I don't care. It seems French to me. If the French are listening to our football show, we're all about it. We're going to go to our break here, guys. From our word from the sponsors, when we get back, we're going to dive right in to the Las Vegas Lady Aces here on the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for All That Is Sports.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
Ladies and sinners, welcome to the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for All That Is Sports. I'm your host, Kayle Henderson. Let's give a special shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, and Seal the Deal Wax Seals. Real quick, if you folks buy a pack of Premium Brisket Beef Jerky from Planet Jerky itself, then you post on Instagram that you were referred by IE Sports Radio, you guys are going to get a free bag. And trust me, they have different flavors. Like there was one where I am almost certain that you will have lava spewing out of anyway. I'm just saying it should be good. It's spicy if you want to risk it. I don't know if you can't trust a fart, that's the way to go. Get after Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Make sure you guys post any kind of thing on social, especially on Instagram. They will get you a free bag of your choice, I'm sure, or they'll just double up what you ordered. On top of that, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. Hey, she's running a small business, guys. Let's support her, man. You got invitations, baby showers, bachelor parties. You know what I'm saying? Wedding invites. Who cares? Hit her up. See what she can do. Get you that wax seal so you can get a stamp of approval on them invites, on them nice little gestures that you send to the people you love because you want them to be involved in your event. That should be a thing, man. If you're a business, if you're another small business, support small business, right? If you want to have her make out your logo or something on a wax seal, why not reach out and see if she can do that? That'd be epic, right? And that's also great marketing, by the way, both sides. Shout out to the folks in the chat. As always, I got some of the best teammates out there. Ralph, thank you so much for joining in. Ralph is the host on the Yinzer Report. He's our resident Pittsburgh expert. Well, you know, Steelers fans, his delusional. I'm just kidding. Gotta love Steelers fans, man. And listen, Steelers get credit. They got 6 Super Bowls, man. Only 2 teams have 6 Super Bowls. Can anybody in the chat, can any of our listeners listening tonight tell us exactly which 2 teams have 6 Super Bowl wins? Just saying. And then which teams have 5? I'd love to hear that kind of fan involvement tonight, some listener involvement. We got 9 people. I have no idea why there's not 10 times the people watching the show right now, but it's driving me nuts. Taryn reaches out. Congrats on 100 episodes. That is crazy, guys. It feels like it was about a year and a half ago. Larry reached out to me. He said, "Hey, I need a host for Vegas. You happen to be a Raiders fan, somewhat. You may know a little bit about football. Would you like to step in and do a Vegas show?" And I'm like, I mean, I kind of read the tea leaves, man. Like, look at that. It's the fastest growing sports market in America. I think I made the right choice, and he definitely made the right choice. This has been a lot of fun. I'm so happy we've had 100 episodes. Thank you so much, Taryn, for shouting out. Taryn is one of the greatest teammates known to man, by the way, and he is a busy man as well. He's our resident volleyball expert and set point. He is also a co-host on 3 and Out, whether it's pro football or college football. On top of that, SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where he covers our hated Chargers that we're going to touch base on later in the show. But regardless, he's a hardworking man. He kicks ass, takes names. He actually goes to volleyball tournaments, gets epic interviews with live coaches. Shout out to Taryn Rodriguez for that. Larry, as always, for producing the show and being very kind. I know this is summer vacation, but I should probably be wearing a helmet with my name and glitter on it. That's why he's helping me right now, and I appreciate it. I always appreciate Larry, man. He's always the good. Kayle, I'm not an expert in Steelers, but I can talk and the hell out of them with anyone. I love it, man. Hey, sometimes you just gotta love who you love, man. Especially if you're an expert in that range. I will say this. I threw out an idea, and I'll just kind of throw the feelers out there for you guys involved. I kind of threw the idea out to Larry because we have 8 division and 8 days coming for 3 and Out, right? And I'm going to mention that later in the show as well because I think it's very relevant. We said we should ask every co-host or every teammate at IE Sports Radio and our listeners in general who are the greatest football coaches of all time. And let's limit it. Like, if you guys want to, you guys could do an NFL section. If you want to, you could do a college football section. I just think that'd be a really interesting conversation. And I'll just say it like this. It's just my opinion. If you don't say Bill Belichick's number 1, I don't think you know a damn thing and probably you probably shouldn't be saying anything. But everybody has their opinions, right? Because right now, I could say Andy Reid, fluctuates on my list. And if he wins another one in the next couple of years, he'll probably definitely move into 2. But there's just so many different ways you could go with that conversation. And I think it'd just be very interesting for our 8 division and 8 days coming up, 3 and Out, hosted by Larry B. You guys will get a chance to listen to the Raiders version. I think, what is it? Usually about 20 minutes, Larry, 20 to 30 minutes. We always go way over. We're horrible. We're absolutely horrible at that. But you know what? We deserve it because we're the Raiders, baby. Raiders, one of the blue bloods, man, in the NFL. The NFL would not be the NFL without the Raiders, by the way. Al Davis, I mean, the AFL NFL merger was real, and Al Davis was a pioneer of that, baby. I'm just saying. The NFL would not be the NFL without the silver and black. It's that simple. A'ja Wilson is absolutely killing it this year, guys. We've talked about it for a couple weeks. I've said without a doubt, in my mind, she's the MVP, right? Well, right now, she's leading the MVP race by a large margin. She's averaging 28 points a game, 27.8 to be exact. I know that's like half a point down from what we talked about 2 weeks ago, but the fact that she's averaging 27.8 points a game and averaging 11.6 rebounds, so boards a game, is unbelievable for me. Those are top NBA numbers. Like, those are facts. That's top NBA numbers. And she's outpacing the competitors. She's unmatched as far as skills and leadership right now. And it's hard to argue against it because when you win 2 straight titles and you're the epicenter of that whole trio of Kelsey Plum, Jackie Young, and A'ja Wilson, but it should be A'ja Wilson at the top of that little triangle or pyramid of stars. I'm telling you, man, A'ja's just on a whole other level right now. And the fact that she is not being talked about as one of the best basketball players in the world is just shocking to me. And maybe she is. Maybe we're just not as in tune with the circles. I just don't see as much love as she should be receiving. That's just my opinion. Her season's been absolutely phenomenal. Like the other night, Kelsey Plum did a wonderful interview. They were asking her questions, and Kelsey did what Kelsey does, and she kind of turned it on A'ja, right? She turned the attention to A'ja because A'ja had literally just scored like 35 points in a game. A WNBA game. She just goes out and scores 35 points and had like 12 rebounds. It was disgusting. They won en route. And all the attention went from Plum, who is a superstar too, right, to Aja, who is absolutely showcasing exactly what it means to be the best in the WNBA. We got all this talk about Angel Reese. We got all this talk, who's very hot, by the way. I had to throw that in there. All this talk about Angel Reese, all this talk about Caitlin Clark, right, and how relevant the WNBA is because of those two and that rivalry that's starting to brew. But not enough people are talking about how consistent and how great Aja Wilson is. And it's kind of, I mean, it's criminal, really. It's criminal. 27.8 points per game. What? 11.6 rebounds. She's that good on the boards, dude? Like, that's saucy. That's what I tell my players when they're doing some stuff. And I'm probably 2 years behind the lingo, but that's saucy, man. Okay? She's doing things that, like, teammates are supposed to do, but you don't expect superstars to do. I'm just saying, some of the greatest players to ever play didn't do teammate shit like that. 11.6 rebounds a game. And it's making a difference. The Las Vegas Lady Aces actually have won. Let's see here. We're looking at the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games. They've won 7 of the last 8 games. They're now 13-7. They are third place in the Western Conference. They're really just a game behind second place. They're about 2.5 games behind first place in the entire WNBA. Listen, this is a team that's going for a three-peat, guys. If we don't think that they have the opportunity, to just take over and do what they need to do, we're crazy. I mean, look at all them W's Larry's showing on the board. Look at all them W's. All I see are green W's. It's usually a good sign. Well, get them L's out of here, Larry. What are you doing? Come on, man. You're killing me here, bro. We're bragging about the aces, and you gotta show the L's. What's going on here? Anyway, producers, man. He's the highest paid producer on IE Sports Radio. Let me tell you. Hey, guys, Mr. Cowboy chimes in the chat. Are y'all getting the A's? Let's touch base on that real quick. It's interesting you bring that up. Are y'all getting the A's? So an agreement in principle by the Major League Baseball in Vegas was put in place that the Las Vegas A's would move, or I should say the Oakland A's, now the Las Vegas A's would move. There's just some hangups on the actual, vernacular of the stadium and how it's going to be funded. And it's getting to the point where, listen, they have kind of a lease. They're not expecting the stadium to be finished until like 2028. So we're still a ways out before that to be even really relevant, in my opinion. But what we're running into is an owner that didn't own his shit from the very beginning, in my opinion. He didn't quite understand the value of the A's and the lack of value of the A's. And he was basically asking for NFL money. He was basically asking for Raiders money. For folks who don't know, the Las Vegas Raiders received $750 million in tax money from the Sin City to move from Oakland to Las Vegas. On top of that, their fee of relocation was waived because the NFL, they know they screwed them out of LA. There's no way around it. Like, it was going to be the Raiders and Rams in that beautiful stadium at SoFi. I'm happy it didn't happen because now we have the Death Star, right? We got Allegiant Stadium. But we cannot say that they didn't get screwed, because they did get screwed. Jerry Jones piped up for his boy, Spanos and the Chargers, and they were able to kind of sneak in that deal last second. So the NFL kind of felt bad for him. I think Major League Baseball did the same thing with the A's. They waived relocation fees. That does not usually happen. Owners do not usually do that. When you move, owners have a right to the share of that move ownership. They decided not to charge the A's. They thought that wouldn't be the right way to go. So honestly, the ball's in the baseball or the park funding is kind of in the court of the rich billionaire that doesn't really want to put up the money up front. And I get it. Like, sometimes you need, if you're going to get rich, you use poor people to do it. That's just kind of the way it is. That's how the rich stay rich. Just being real. Mr. Cowboy says the Raiders really fit in Vegas, though. 100%. Like, listen, when Melvin Gordon said it perfectly. I think it was a few years back when he was playing for the Chargers. And they were playing in that soccer stadium, and they had about the same fans they do now in SoFi on a weekly basis, right? So like 10 fans. What I can tell you is Melvin Gordon came out and said, Oh, you guys think this is a Ram city? Well, it ain't a Charger city. Guys, this is a Raiders city. Like he was talking about Los Angeles because the Raiders won 2 Super Bowls as the Los Angeles Raiders. 2 Super Bowls. LA is a Raiders town. But if we talked about it, if the Raiders couldn't get to LA because they couldn't figure out something in Oakland, and by the way, that city government is absolutely just hanging themselves with what they've done with sports and the beloved sports of those fans and the citizens of Oakland. If the Raiders were going to end anywhere, Sin City makes the most sense, dude. The absolute the mystique, the idea, the personality. Come on, absolutely, Mr. Cowboy. I'm with you 100%, dude. I think the Raiders 100% fit in. But to answer your question about the A's, in principle, yes, the A's are going to be the Las Vegas A's. Unfortunately, there's still a long way to go to figure out what's going to happen and how this new ballpark is going to be funded. The Las Vegas is basically offered up to, I think it's like $350 million in cash, and then they're also offering roughly $250 million in trade value in sense of like in goodwill. So like they're leasing the stadium back to the A's for like $1 type crap. So that way the A's can receive more revenue in their ticket sales, in their merch, all that jazz. They keep more of the money up front, right? So that is value that is being presented to the A's. The ticket share revenue, right? All that, majority of that's going to go to the A's. So what Major League Baseball and what the Las Vegas city council members decided to do, hey, we'll just give them what they feel they deserve in value. We're not going to give them cash. Because the reality is baseball is not on the same level as football. It is not on the same level as the NFL. You can't convince me otherwise. And that's exactly why the business didn't go down the way they were hoping it would. It's that simple. And yes, the Athletics will be in Las Vegas. I think they will be in Las Vegas. I think this will get done. I think this actually catapults the A's to a different level of a franchise. You go from being one of the bottom, funded and revenue streamed franchises in Major League Baseball to probably middle of the pack, if not the upper echelon, real quick. Look what happened with the Raiders. Before they moved to Vegas, they were worth $970 million. The Raiders, being as storied as they are, were only worth $970 million. Since their move to Las Vegas, they're worth $6.7 billion. That's in 5 years, man. That's unbelievable value. And there's no reason why a Major League Baseball team couldn't go from being, a team that probably was only worth like 400, 500 million. I'm just throwing that out there. That's just my guess. There's no reason why they can't be worth 2.5 to 3 billion. If they do well and they market things the way Mark Davis has done. Mark Davis is making his money, man. And that's another thing we should probably talk about too, Larry, is the tickets. The ticket prices for Raiders games right now. The most loyal Raiders fans from Oakland, on social media, they're all coming out and saying, man, they're just getting priced out. It's that simple. They're just getting priced out. Mark Davis is making his hay, man. I hope the Raiders start winning. We're going to go to a quick break, guys. Mr. Cowboy asked before we go to break, is there a casino in the Raider Stadium? I believe there's slots. I don't think there's a casino. Can't wait for my Cowboys to go to Vegas. That'll be a really fun game. That'll be a really fun game. If I remember correctly, the Raiders have beaten you guys the last 2 times. And on live TV, primetime, Thanksgiving, with Derek Carr. So you guys should feel bad. Yeah. But anyway, we're going to go to a quick break, guys. We're going to talk about New York. We got our boy out of New York, which would be, give me 1 second, please. New York State with Ricky K. Got to love that. New York State with Ricky K. We're going to talk about him or his drop. We're going to thank him. Definitely want to show our teammates. And then we got Chi-Town Weekly, hosted by Adam Karnick. When we get back here on the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports.
What's up, New York? This is Ricky K coming at you with the NY State of Sports, a new show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Listen to me every Thursday afternoon as we bring you the latest takes on the Yankees, Mets, Jets, Giants, Knicks, Nets, Rangers, Devils, and Islanders. Plus, you get some college hoops and what's the local sports events going on in the area. It's a state that never sleeps, so why not get the opinions and sports takes that never sleep? Again, every Thursday, 2 p.m. to the NY State of Sports. We'll see you then.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Ladies and sinners, welcome to another Tuesday evening edition of the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Kayle Henderson. You folks can get at us on our Twitter forums at Kayle_Henderson. You guys can get at us on our Twitter our IE Sports Radio Twitter forum at Sin City_IESR, where we talk all things Vegas sports and the fastest growing sports market in America. Shout out to Ricky K, New York Sports. I don't know if I did that accent right. I think it was close. We're the only ones that like pizza. I don't know. I don't know. Whatever New Yorkers say. Gotta love it. New York State of Sports. Ricky K, shout out. And then our boy Adam Karnick, man, who's also not just the host of Chi-Town Weekly. He's the host of the Neutral Zone, a show I used to host back in the day. And it would be awesome if Larry could get that reunion between myself, that guy, Nico Green, right? Buddy, let me tell you. And Adam and our co-host there with the Neutral Zone in general. You got to love it. Congrats on making it to episode 100. What? Yeah, episode 100, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Chicago pizza is greater than New York pizza. Holy shit, man. I don't know. This guy's trying to start a war. You could just tell, hey, we got 43 viewers, you know? I hope 43 viewers can weigh in and be like, dude, which is better, Chicago pizza or New York pizza, right? So that thin slice or that basically deep dish, which is a pie. It's basically, I mean, let's be honest, it's basically lasagna. If we're being real, I'm not being critical. I'm just being honest. Which one's better? You viewers listening, man. What's going on? Chicago style destroys New York style. Of course you'd say that. You're the Chicago guy. Like what? Yeah, this is totally biased. Buddy, let me tell you, I wish I could have tuned in more of the Neutral Zone with you and Nico, but I'm glad. Hey, man, appreciate it, Taryn. As always, you're the man, the myth, the legend. But yes, Adam, we do need to do a Neutral Zone reunion. Speaking of the Neutral Zone, quick shout out to the Golden Knights. Golden Knights have begun their off-season plans, man. I mean, they've lost quite a few players. Majority of their Stanley Cup winning team, 2023 Stanley Cup winning team, is gone. Like, and I think the big focus, people should understand is, you had 4 forwards depart, a defenseman who signed with the Chicago Blackhawks, a couple goalies. I don't know if it's necessarily a huge thing, but I think it's important to note that, like, you lost defensive help, which was key. You lost multiple forwards, which all scored goals because, as you guys know, during that season, nobody was more efficient on in goals than the Golden Knights. The Golden Knights didn't have a single 100-point player in 2023, but for whatever reason, they led the league in goals per game. So that just tells you how efficient they were. They're losing a lot of that production, and one of the major ones we're going to talk about here shortly before moving on to the Sunday ticket antitrust, by the way. Definitely going to focus on that tonight. Jonathan Marchessault has signed with the Nashville Predators, and it's really disappointing. Listen, if you're Golden Knights, I think it was kind of up in the air, right? And the reality is he's 33 years old. Now, 33 in hockey years is totally different than like 33 in the NFL. Like, let's be real. There's a lot of really good NHL players that play in their 30s. So I can understand why Marchessault's saying, "Hey, I got value," but 33 is means you're a little long in the tooth to me for hockey, in the sense that he got a 6-year, essentially $30 million deal with the Predators. I actually think it's more along the lines of like 5 years, 27.5, so it's like $5.5 million a year. I'm shocked that the Golden Knights didn't really push that, because he's been such a mainstay for your team. Granted, you definitely want to make sure you're re-signing Jack Eichel, right? You want to make sure you're extending him. He's younger. He's a mainstay of the team, right? I do believe that Mark Stone is going to be somebody who stays. Is his name in question? Yeah, he could be somebody that could be departing in the near future, but Mark Stone is basically the captain of the Golden Knights, so it's really important to retain him. Adam, you're exactly right. When you win the cup, everybody wants to get paid. I totally get it. It makes sense. It's part of the business. That's why a lot of teams don't tend to repeat. A lot of folks think, well, it's just they weren't as talented as the years before. Some of that's true, man. Sometimes you just lose pieces of that team, but when you play really well, other teams want a piece of that. So it's in reality, it doesn't surprise me that Nashville said, "Hey, Jonathan, we value you here. We'd love to bring you here to Nashville. Help us contend for a title." Because there's a possibility Nashville could be one of those teams contending. Do I think that they're going to be better than some of the better teams in the Pacific? Probably not. But the Nashville Predators will be a team to mess with. And, Marchessault's one of those guys that he knows how to find the net, dude. That's his thing. He just knows how to find the net. He's very efficient, and he's been a mainstay in Las Vegas. So much love to Jonathan Marchessault, man. It's unfortunate they could not figure that out. We're going to have a young team. The Golden Knights will have a young team. It's going to be a prove-it type team. I'm sure they're still extremely talented. I think if there's one thing that we can give the Golden Knights credit on, in their first 7 years, I don't know if a team has done a better job of reloading this roster on a consistent basis. You still have two mainstays in Jack Eichel and Mark Stone. And I do believe that Adin Hill was injured last year. So if he comes back healthy and plays anywhere near the level he did when they won the Stanley Cup, which is basically what earned him his extension, you have three pieces there, three mainstay pieces that you can really build Vegas around for future years. That's just my thoughts. Yes, it's going to hurt not having those guys, especially Marchessault, but sometimes you have to get a bit younger to get a little bit better. That's just the way it is. Look at the New York Rangers. Like, they're unbelievable now because they got younger. They parted ways with people at the right time, and now they have a really young roster that's full of very talented players. It goes a long way. I'm just saying. I'm not saying it's the perfect mold. I'm just letting you guys know, like, there's a reason why that took place, and there's a reason why I think the Golden Knights are making these moves, and I think it's for future moves. I think they'll still be contenders next year. They definitely won't be as good up front, but they could surprise us. We're going to see a lot of young speed, and to pair that with three mainstays on that team from the Stanley Cup title, that's a big deal. Transitioning over to the NFL Sunday ticket case. We talked about it 2 weeks ago, guys, and we kind of alluded to it. The following week, what happened? Well, the judges decided to side with the consumer for once. Listen, it's a justice system, right? It's not always going to work, and it's definitely flawed, but sometimes it works out when you need it to. As customers, and I've been a paying customer for years, I love this because I think that the rate's going to get reduced. The fact that they were willing to say, you need to pay $450 so that you can have access to every single team when you don't probably even want access to every single team. I don't know. I just don't like it, man. I don't like that every other league has basically a pick a team package, right? So if I'm an NFL fan of the Raiders and I just want to watch Raiders, I should be able to pick the Raiders and it should be at half the cost. Okay? Because that's the one team I want to watch. If you're going to force me to watch every single team and force me to pay $450, I'm probably still going to do it because I love the NFL that much. Doesn't mean it's right. And I think that was the NFL's argument. Like, they're a business. They can name the price and value their product however they want to. Unfortunately, you had some businesses that were suing the NFL in this lawsuit, based out of San Francisco for that matter, that felt like they didn't get their money's worth, that they were kind of screwed in the deal. And it kind of led to this lawsuit. Now you had a bunch of fans or just regular fans that didn't like the fact that there wasn't a lot of variety. On top of that, to expand to it, if you guys look at Pro Football Focus, if you guys go to Pro Football Focus and you guys read that article, one of the things you guys can definitely look into is some of the streaming companies out there that were really interested in owning or at least having a piece of the Sunday Ticket. Like there was Apple TV saying that they were just going to include Sunday Ticket in their $6.99 package. Like, could you imagine that? That'd be an unbelievable selling item. Like, Apple would still be the richest company in the world and they'd be the smartest company in the world because they probably wouldn't make it completely exclusive. But I promise you, Apple would have found a way to make things way better for Apple users if you were an Apple TV. Yeah. And Larry, I'm with you. If you're telling me that Apple offered, so basically what happened was there was an initial amount. I think it was like $2.4 billion, somewhere on the lights, that businesses had to pay for the rights to compete for this whole Sunday Ticket deal, right? So every one of the companies that were in Pro Football Focus essentially were willing to commit to the $2 billion. What the NFL didn't factor in, right, was how, or I guess they did factor it in. In other words, they almost picked and chose who's going to do what and why because of the price points. So Apple TV was a no-go. They were willing to offer the money up front, but it was a no-go because they were going to basically give you a premium package at $6.99 a month. And that doesn't mean a lot of revenue for the NFL, right? That doesn't mean more revenue for the NFL. So of course the NFL said no to that, right? Then you had ESPN who came in. They were talking about adding it to ESPN Plus and making it like $60 for the entire season. I would have absolutely signed up for that as well. 100% signed up for that. Adam Karnick chimes in, had Sunday Ticket one season, then it was built into DirecTV to sign up. Not going to lie, it was really cool to watch whichever game I wanted when the Bears weren't on. Yeah, and honestly, probably at that time when you signed it, the Bears still weren't very good. So you had other teams to watch in general. Overall, dude, like, I totally get where you're coming from. DirecTV was kind of a ripoff because you had to have a satellite on your home in order to take advantage of these types of deals. I hate that crap. And I only know this stuff because I work for the telecommunications company. But it's just not, it's not cool, man. That's just not the way to do it. That's been the biggest issue. Like, Sunday Ticket was essentially monopolized for more than a decade. And it's crazy to me that the NFL didn't want to, and I get why they picked YouTube. One, YouTube was willing to jack up the price so the NFL could make more money. That's obviously come back to haunt them. That's just reality now. But YouTube is one of the biggest platforms in the world. So it makes a ton of sense as to why YouTube was the choice. But Apple is the biggest company in the world. They go back and forth with Microsoft. They go back and forth with Tesla nonstop, right? SpaceX, however you want to say it. They go back and forth all the time. But I can tell you right now, man, YouTube is a really smart choice. What are the damages? Well, the jury basically awarded $4.7 billion in damages to residential class and $96 million to business class, commercial companies. Now, that isn't the only thing. This is going to be paid in perpetuity because this lawsuit started in 2015. So it is very likely, and we talked about this 2 weeks ago, and Pro Football Focus covered it perfectly. They will be paying more than 3 times that sum because of how long it took to decide on this deliberation and how it's affected the businesses and the residential customers. Because in the last 10 years, the price for Sunday Ticket has done nothing but go up. It's done nothing but increase. It's gotten worse each time. Last year wasn't too bad. It was like $300 for the entire season, but it was because it was a first year sign up thing. Now I had a notice not too long ago saying they were going to charge me $450. I canceled it because I knew that this ruling was coming, because PFT themselves came right out and said, hey, I think the NFL is going to lose this one. So there's a good chance that the NFL is out $18 billion to consumers. I don't know how I'll receive a cut of that. I should, because I've been overcharged for 10 years, basically. But it'll be interesting to see how that's divvied up. Overall, I think that's a W for the consumer. It's a W for us as fans. The NFL Sunday Ticket should not cost $450 a year. That is absolutely ridiculous. They make billions of dollars. Now, they're going to lose almost a whole year's worth of revenue this upcoming season with this lawsuit. I'm sure that the court system will come up with a way to split it into some amount of payments for the next few years, because that's just what court systems do, is protect businesses. But overall, this is a W, big time W for the industry. It's a big time W for lists or consumers, because seriously, it's just not okay to have to pay that much to watch something you love. The NFL is supposed to be an escape, and so far it's just kind of one of them pocketbook arrests, if you know what I'm saying. So good on the court system for siding with the consumer. I'm a big fan of that. I think that's huge. And I'm not saying I want to buck the system nonstop, but that's just the way it is. Quick shout out to the guys in the chat. Right, Nvidia will take out Apple in 10 years. It's possible. 100%, Marcus. That's totally possible. I haven't followed the case super closely. Does the NFL get a percentage of what YouTube makes? Absolutely, they do. Yeah, that's basically why they picked YouTube. That's basically why they stayed with DirecTV over the years. Like, they would give them a certain percentage of revenue based on the number of subscribers and all that stuff on top of that flat rate that a company would have to pay in order to get the rights to show Sunday Ticket. And like I said, that rate was about $2 billion for the rights to have Sunday Ticket. That is crazy, unbelievable money. And you wonder why the NFL players are like, why aren't we getting bigger pieces of the pie? I mean, we're working for this crap, dude. Like, the owners just kind of sit back and get rich while the players kind of do all the work to make the league relevant, if we're being honest. So yeah, that's kind of where we're looking at, Adam. Game 18 coming. Yeah, gotta love that, baby. Mr. Cowboy, gotta love that. Marcus looks great. The NFL will keep this in court for years and make us settle for pennies on the dollar. It's possible. Yeah, I mean, there's over 2.4 million people that have signed up for this lawsuit. So, I mean, it's in the NFL's best interest to drag this out so they don't have to pay it anytime soon. But yes, and yes, $450 a year. No wonder why I don't get Sunday Ticket. Dude, it's expensive. It's 100% expensive. And I don't blame anybody, Everybody has a value. I was going to pay it, but I'm going to hold off until I know for sure that there's a discount. If there's not a discount, I'll probably still pay it because I love football and I love the NFL. And I like having people over. I like making wings and barbecuing on Sundays. It's one of the only days off I really have. So definitely gotta enjoy that while we can. We're going to go to a quick break, guys. We're going to listen to drops from our teammates here. Fast Break with Davidson and Dontarius. On top of that, Palm Tree Sports with Corey Pujols here on the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy Dontarius Live.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need. So we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That give you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
Hey sports fans, are you in the market for Florida sports or just keeping up with the latest in the Panhandle? Palm Tree Sports is a dedicated audio hub to all things sports in the Sunshine State. We cover current events, big news, heavily favored opinions all across the NFL, NBA, MLB, and so much more. So come check us out every Saturday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a down south education on Florida sports and athletics. It's hosted by yours truly, Corey Pujols, and is powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Welcome back, ladies and sinners, to the basically final segment of the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Kayle Henderson. You guys can get at us on Twitter at SinCity_IESR, at Kayle_Henderson. We talk all things Vegas sports. And don't get too upsetty about my Twitter, man. I say what I want to say on my Twitter. I try not to, I try to leave Larry names out my mouth, Larry B's name out my mouth. Okay. I try to leave IE Sports. Sometimes I go on a tangent with people, man. There's some just stupid ass people out there. Okay. And I can only be cool so long. I sell for a living. Okay. So for 8 to 10 hours a day, I'm basically a robot. I'm constantly smiling. My face hurts. And then when I get home, I'm just completely irritated by any stupidity. So bear with me, okay? Bear with me. But anyway, at SinCity_ISR, at Kayle_Henderson, we talk all things Vegas sports. If you guys miss a show, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about that because we're on almost every platform you can ask for. IE Sports Radio is available on Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible, Castbox, Deezer Podcast Addict, Podchaser, and Geospan. So the French version of our show and our lovely people, we gotta love them. They give them a shout out. On top of that, if you guys want to take a look at IE Sports Radio, go to iesportsradio.com. Visit our website, man. We've been a show or a station for 10 years. We've been pounding out content for 10 years, believe it or not. I have not been here for 10 years. I am not an IE Sports Radio grandpa like Larry B. And I'm going to make sure I send that guy fresh tennis balls so that way he can put them on his walker. I'm just saying. I'm not an IE Sports Radio senior citizen like Larry B. But if I was, I'd tell you, go to iesportsradio.com. Check out IE Sports Radio /Sin City Sports. Check out the merch. Check out my teammates, man. I got a lot of great teammates in the chat tonight. They're kicking ass, taking names. And it looks like we have 65 viewers, man. Gotta love the people that are tuning in. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the show. I do this in my free time. I love sports. Definitely love the Raiders. And we're about to spend the last bit of this show talking about the Las Vegas Raiders. We've had a big offseason, man. Let's say it like this. I like what's happening. I like the direction the Raiders are going. I hope this continues. It seems like there's momentum. We're not just talking about on the field stuff. Now let's go to business, okay? So Mark Davis, as you guys know, he made the choice years back to move to Las Vegas. It probably wasn't an easy choice for him. But, I mean, there's all kinds of documentaries and stating that, Al Davis wanted to move to Vegas years before that. It just didn't happen. It didn't matriculate. It didn't happen. Some of that had to do with, I'm sure the NFL was sick of Al Davis, sick of the crap that he was doing when they were relocating from Oakland to Los Angeles back to Oakland, and etc. Right? once he passed, I think some of that stuff just kind of went under the bridge, and Mark took over. And I think he rebuilt relationships. This is just my opinion, but from what I've read, to beat writers closest to the Raiders and across the NFL, Mark Davis has done a really good job of building relationships with the owners he's had to build relationships with, especially guys like Jerry Jones. Right, he's got a ton of respect for Jerry. Jerry had a ton of respect for Al, so obviously they always kind of stick together. So Mark made the decision to move to Las Vegas, and it's done nothing but print money for the Raiders. It's done nothing but print money for the NFL. To go from being a team that was worth $970 million, right, to like 6.5, 6.7 billion in 5 years is unbelievable to me. It's a license to print money. So with that said, sometimes you're going to gauge interest from people. Mark Davis does not have a son. He does not have a kid. So what is he going to do if he passes? He's got to have people in place that he knows for sure love the game and that love the Raiders, love the silver and black. And it seems as though, he's developed a close relationship with Tom Brady. Tom Brady essentially applied or offered money for a 10% share or stake in the Las Vegas Raiders. That was kind of denied by the NFL. Not sure why. I don't have the exact reasoning as to why that took place, but it didn't work out. So what happens when you have a company that is usually willing to take any kind of money that's thrown at them and says no? It probably means that there wasn't enough assets for Tom Brady to just come in. Like, if your team's worth $6.7 billion and this guy's going to have 10% of the shares, he's got to be worth $600 million, roughly, right? So you got to sometimes divide that out and conquer. And he went to a close buddy, Richard Seymour, who was a former Raider, who a lot of Raiders fans do respect and loved. Even though he was in his back half of his career, he came in and he absolutely dominated in the trenches, man, on the defensive line. So once a Raider, always a Raider. That's kind of the theme in Raider Nation in general. Richard Seymour is also applying for a joint stake in that 10.4% of the Raiders stock. I love it. Actually, absolutely love it. I think, to me, those are two guys that love to win games. Those are two guys that were very passionate about football. Tom Brady, say what you want about him and the Patriots. I think he loves the game, and I think he loves to win. And if he was a part owner of a team, he'd have vested interest in that. And the guy knows how to win. So I would hope we would take his advice on that. Richard Seymour's the same way. He's got a couple Super Bowl rings on his hand as well. One of the better defensive linemen for almost a decade when he played. Like, he was a stud. It was really hard to find defensive linemen much better than him. And Larry, you tell me, man, you're the producer here. Can you think of a handful of defensive linemen that were better than Richard Seymour off the top of your head? Like, man was just dominant. So I like it, man. You have two guys that were very good at their craft, that are very passionate about football, that know the game of football very well, trying to invest in a team that really needs the right people to invest in it right now, because the Raiders have been losers for 20 years. Like, that's the reality, man. We have not been a very good franchise for 20 years. We have not been well run for 20 years. The last 12 have been abysmal under Mark Davis, and he doesn't shy away from it. He takes full responsibility for it. It's one thing I love about Mark Davis. I want to hate the dude because the Raiders suck sometimes, but he also accepts responsibility for that. He knows he's gone through quite a few head coaches. He's been hiring essentially the wrong people he thought were the right people, but ended up being, no, they weren't the right people. Josh McDaniels is a perfect example of that. He just was not a Raider, man. He just did not fit the culture. And Mark took a chance on him. It absolutely just looked horrible. And Mark's answering for that. And I think we're still answering for that. So the John Gruden situation, like, I'm sure if Mark Davis had a choice, John Gruden wouldn't have resigned. He would have been pushed out as the Raiders head coach, but it happened. It just seems like a Raiders thing, man. It seems like dysfunction is the Raiders thing, and it sucks. It really does suck. So why do I bring that stuff up? I think guys like Richard Seymour and Tom Brady are going to show up. Mark's going to kind of hand them a bit of say in what goes on in operations, and you just won't see this as much. There will be a zero tolerance. Like, Tom Brady doesn't believe in that type of shit. He wants people that are going to show up, be team. When you listen to interviews from people, you know how many NFL players want to hate Tom Brady, but if they get signed by the Patriots, the first thing he does is he goes up and he introduces himself. You could be James Harrison, for example. He talked about it in an interview, and James Harrison said, "I wanted to hate the dude, but you can't. Everything you hear about him is real. He is willing to walk up to you, even though he knows who you are, and introduce himself because you are now a Patriot. You are part of his team." That's just the type of culture we need. But by the same token, we need more guys like Richard Seymour who are absolutely nasty human beings on the field. That is part of the Raiders' mystique, and that has to continue. And I think having that good blend of two guys that really want to win and are very smart and very business savvy helps a ton. On top of that, I think if Brady gets, a portion of that 10% ownership, right? So half of that would be about 5.2%, because I think they're aiming for about 10.4% in shares. What you're looking at is Tom Brady is going to be one of the biggest broadcast analysts or color analysts for the coming years, guys. He was signed to a huge deal. Huge deal. I think it was Fox. Am I wrong, Larry, or was it Fox? I'm pretty sure Tom Brady was signed to Fox, and it was crazy money, like $10 million a year type money for a guy that's never been in broadcasting, but he's Tom effing Brady, bro. He's Tom Brady. He's the winningest quarterback in NFL history. Most touchdowns. Okay? I'm not trying to glaze this man. I'm just being real with you. I hate him. I hate him because of the Tuck rule. I hate him. But I'm being real with you guys, man. He's the greatest quarterback we ever saw. Is he the most talented? No. But he's the winningest. Does he have the most Super Bowls? Nobody can argue with that, because I don't think he's got 7. I don't think another person has 5. Just being real. Just being real. Mr. Cowboy, well, sports betting has helped out that as well. Yeah, for sure. 100%. Larry, didn't know you were a Raiders fan. Larry's a smart man. Of course he's a Raiders fan. Look at him. He's the smartest guy in this production room. He's the only guy in the production room. Marcus, I don't hold it against him. You're a sweet guy. For life, brother. Love it. Mr. Cowboy once went to a Raiders road game and was shocked at the amount of Raiders fans there. What? Do you mean like you were shocked at how many Raiders fans travel? Because it's probably more affordable than trying to get tickets to Allegiant Stadium right now? Absolutely. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. The Tuck rule is so fumble. 100%, Mr. Cowboy. 100%. Charles Haley has 5 rings. That's awesome. Okay, that's a great stat. That's an amazing stat. Thank you, Charles Haley. Because he played for the Cowboys and for the Niners, correct? He's like one of them unsung heroes that he isn't talked about enough. He's got 5 rings. What? That's badass. Moving on. As always, there's always Raiders drama. There's always some tidbit. This time it's kind of spurred by Davante Adams. He's basically just lashing out to that Chargers. If you guys didn't get a chance, the Chargers did a schedule announcement, right? And part of that schedule announcement was showing their Raiders games, a picture of Davante Adams and a picture of a trash can. The Chargers, the team that's finished 3rd place the last couple of years, wants to come out and basically say that the Raiders are garbage. It's hilarious. The team that gave up 63 points in a single game last year to the Raiders wanted to come out on social media and say garbage next to Davante Adams, one of the most talented wide receivers we've probably ever seen in the NFL. He's still productive. He's been dealing with quarterback issues, and he's still productive. This guy has basically received over 100 yards per game while playing the Los Angeles Chargers. 100 yards per game and multiple touchdowns, and these guys are posting a picture garbage. I get it. It's playful banter, but boy, did that come back to bite. Because Davante came right out in an interview and basically called them out. He's like, you guys suck. He basically said that. He said, Chargers suck. So I love it. I hope it fuels Davante. I hope he absolutely just destroys those corners for the Los Angeles Chargers. As much as I want to see Harbaugh be successful, not at the expense of beating the Raiders, ever, never, not even an option, not okay. So yeah, Davante Adams was a bit livid, understandably so. You guys get a chance, make sure you guys go listen to that interview. I believe it's on Raiders.com or on YouTube. You guys can check that out. But it was a very interesting interview, and he was coming with the fire. And you can tell he's a veteran. You can tell that he's getting to the point where he just doesn't really care. He's going to start saying things that's on his mind because he thinks it's what's best for the team, thinks it's what's best for his brand. And I appreciate that, man. It's that wily veteran coming out. Transitioning over to the offseason. The reason why I want to talk a bit about the offseason moves that the Raiders took place is we are about to venture into the yearly 8 division and 8 days of 3 and out with Larry B, right? So the Raiders will have a full segment. It's usually about 25 minutes. We always go over. That's just what we do because we are very passionate about our Raiders team and we want to see them win. It's that simple. But 8 division and 8 days is coming up on IE Sports Radio. 3 and out. It's coming. We're going to have a Raiders segment. One of the segments we're going to talk about is the Raiders offseason. Why is this year going to be different than years past? Pretty simple. I think the attitude in the building is different. It feels different. I don't give a shit about that whole bankruptcy thing. Like, again, more just Raiders unnecessary crap in the tabloids, right? But at the end of the day, it seems as though it was his wife that applied for the bankruptcy, not Antonio Pierce. So Antonio Pierce should still get paid by the Las Vegas Raiders to be the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. Without a doubt in my mind, he's going to bring an attitude that really helps. On top of that, we've talked about this for weeks here on the Sin City Sports Show. I believe that Antonio Pierce was very intelligent with his coach signings. Okay. He kept guys that he knew were very important to winning and getting better in development. Okay. Patrick Graham is a perfect example. I love that he kept Rob Bryan. He didn't have to keep Rob Bryan. He didn't have to keep any of these coaches. He really didn't have to. Josh McDaniels hired a lot of these guys. He kept them because they fit with what Antonio wants. It's simple, man. The Raiders are going to be a bully. I fully expect that. I think they're going to be a physical football team. I think they're going to run the ball very well or at least die trying, and they're going to play great defense because that's what's complementary to a team that can't rely heavily on their quarterback. Okay? You have a young quarterback going into his second year who's getting all the tabloid space. I've been saying this for weeks. I think Aiden O'Connell is going to be your starter. You don't have to like that take. I don't really give a shit. I'm just being honest with you guys. I said this when Hunter Minshew or whatever his name Minshew was Minshew Mania was signed. I don't see it any other way. I didn't think Minshew was that great. And when you look at the stats from last season, they're very comparable. Like they're within each other's range completely. One was a rookie and one's a veteran who was starting for a really good Colts team. Let's be real. The Colts came on late in the season last year. Yeah, Gardner Minshew mattered in that, but like, let's not act like the Colts weren't a really good team. So the Raiders, decent team, were going through again another tumultuous season because they had to fire their coach and some guys had to step up in coach in ways that they hadn't before. The offensive coordinator, for that matter, who had to fill Lombardi's shoes and call plays, he just wasn't ready, man. It's that simple. Like they didn't score a point against a Minnesota Vikings team following a bye week. That sucks. That's horrible. It's ridiculous. That can't happen. But it did. They made adjustments. They had a great late season run. That's why I feel like things are different. I think they're riding some momentum right now. They were legitimately the last team to beat the Chiefs. The last team in Arrowhead on Christmas Day. It doesn't matter, I guess, because the Chiefs won the Super Bowl still, which is an absolute spike to my heart. But I'm being real with you guys, man. I think the Raiders are a good team. I think it feels different. I feel like Mark Davis is finally opening his eyes. Like from a business perspective, you're seeing the Raiders flourish. From an ownership and front office perspective, I think we're starting to see the Raiders take steps in the right direction that is best for the franchise itself. That is absolutely all we can ask for. See here. Mr. Cowboy chimes in. Max Crosby's a beast. Absolutely. And that's why I think it's really important we talk about some of the free agent signings. The notable one or the biggest one is Christian Wilkins. Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle from Miami Dolphins, former Alabama, defensive star. So we know he knows how to play defense and defensive line because Alabama does nothing but produce defensive players like crazy anymore. He's going to be a good signing. I don't really think there's much of a risk I do believe that, in general, the Raiders are going to probably need more bodies on the defensive line, but it's not a must because you have some star players. I mean, listen to this lineup. Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins. You'll probably have, Butler or John Jenkins in the middle there as a nose. Then you have Malcolm Coots who came on late last year. That's an unbelievable starting four. Unbelievable starting four. And Malcolm Kuntz did come in late last year. Like he had like 6.5 sacks the last 4 games. Like he was disgusting. He was tearing it up. When Josh McDaniels got fired and Malcolm Kuntz just got the start, he was eating, man. On top of that, you're hearing reports of Tyree Wilson absolutely grinding it this offseason with trainers, with Max Crosby. The dude is like 6'7", 265, 270 pounds. The guy has a ton of potential. He doesn't have to just be a defensive end. You see a rotational pass rusher and defensive tackle when that guy's in the game. So then imagine this, when you're on 3rd and long and you want to bring in a guy like Tyree Wilson to put in the defensive tackle position. You now have Max Crosby. You have Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins, Tyree Wilson, and Malcolm Kuntz, the 4 guys going after your quarterback. Those are the 4 guys who are absolutely relentless in their film. You can't say otherwise. Max is a stud, man, and his energy is infectious. And it sounds like Christian Wilkins is pushing Max in practice as well. And Malcolm is getting the gist. And Tyree Wilson's coming around. And you have a couple nose guards that's probably the weakest link in our team, but Jenkins and Butler are not bad. They're not bad at all. So we're looking at a much improved defensive line, and that's huge if you want to play great defense. You have to have a pass rush, especially in today's game. We have to be able to get in Patrick Mahomes' face. We won that game in Arrowhead because we applied pressure. We put them in a spot that was almost unwinnable from the very beginning. That's how you win games against the top teams in this league. It's that simple. So what do? You add pressure on the inside. The most nervous a quarterback can be is when there's A-gap pressure. Between the center and the guards, if you can get pressure there and it comes straight from there, it's a straight line, dude. The quarterback wilts. Unless they're Lamar Jackson and they can actually outrun somebody from within the pocket, which is incredible. But Patrick Mahomes, he's not that guy. He's going to probably throw it away 90% of the time, but when you do sack him, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt big time. So love that signing, man. Christian Wilkins was probably the best signing to me. Gardner Minshew, I think he's going to be a great backup. If Aiden O'Connell doesn't progress, you have a guy that can step in and win you games. I'm cool with that. Totally get it. What's the risk? I don't know if we have our quarterback on the roster of the future. That's what's shitty. Can Aiden be that guy? He's got the tools. He's tall. I think he could be that guy. But are we guaranteed? No. And Gardner Minshew definitely isn't the guy. He's been a career backup. And when he has started, he's completed like 63% of his balls. And again, when you look at Aiden's stats last year and Gardner's stats, they're eerily similar. One was a rookie, and the other one was a veteran. That's not a good look, man. That's why I think Aiden O'Connell is going to get the nod. I think he's going to improve. When you go into your second year, there's usually a huge, massive improvement. And now Aiden's got a ton of weapons. So let's talk about that. Alexander Madison, running back out of Minnesota. You had all those Raiders fans saying, oh, we didn't pay JJ. Oh my gosh, so sad. I've been saying for 2 years, I don't see him coming back. I've been saying it on the show, guys. If you've been listening to the Sin City Sports Show, you know I've been saying Josh Jacobs wasn't coming back eventually. It's that simple. Now, I get it. Anybody could say that because, age matters when it comes to running backs. But I just didn't see the Raiders paying a running back huge money like Josh was looking for. Not $13 million a year. Absolutely not $13 million a year. I wouldn't pay a single running back that these days. Dude, Saquon is getting paid $13 million a year with the Eagles. The Giants thought that was an overpay. The Giants, who need all the help they can get. I think signing running backs to big money is just such a bad idea. What I do like is Madison's statistics compared to Josh Jacobs or JJ were very similar. Extremely similar. He averaged more yards per carry than Josh Jacobs. Folks don't know that, but he did on a Minnesota team. Now, did Minnesota have a good offensive line? Yes. The Raiders technically have a good offensive line. The center, left guard, and left tackle were all placed in the top 10 in their position last year. So say what you want, but they're an excellent, that's an excellent trio of guys. You bring in Jackson Powers Johnson to play right guard. Absolute stud out of Oregon. He's a guy that's going to pancake people for a living. I love Thayer Mumford at right tackle, a guy with a ton of potential. I do believe he'll end up being the starter. You have a massive offensive line that was really excelling in the run game last year when Antonio Pierce took over. Now all you need is a quarterback to be competent, to distribute when it need be. And think about that, man. Like, think about those weapons he has. So you have Andre James at center, right? They signed Cody Whitehair for depth. John Jenkins, defensive tackle. Again, defensive line depth. Adam Butler, they re-signed him. Defensive line depth and nose tackle. It's great. These are all great signings. They're all value signings. And what's crazy is the Raiders still have like $30 million in cap space because of the post-June 1 cut of Jimmy Garoppolo. So things could still happen. And as you guys know, people get cut all the time before season or camp. Sometimes it's the excuse they didn't pass their physical. Most people don't just come out and say, dude. I mean, realistically, no, most people just don't come out and say, dude, we needed to make other plans. The physical thing is probably just to cover up. Then they go somewhere else and somehow pass their physical. Like, I'm just saying, that happens a lot. Don't be surprised if there's some openings that we don't quite expect come camp, fall camp for the NFL. Raiders could totally capitalize on that. Harrison Bryant, they re-signed Amir Abdullah. So let's look at the weapons before they close the show. Offensive line, I think they're going to be much improved this year, and I think it's a really simple offense, right? It's C-gap runs. Like, you got a lot of power, a lot of gap. That's pretty simple for an offensive lineman. For folks who don't quite know, I'm going to teach you guys because this is what I do in high school. Most gap schemes have simple rules, okay? You have a hole number, which is where essentially it's designed, okay? So, for example, what we do at my high school, you know, if it's a 1 or a 0, you know it's going right at the center's ass, okay? I should say 2 or 3, we know we're running duo, so it's simple. It's like we're doing double teams across the board, and our running back is finding a leak. But it's pretty effing simple. If it's a 22 or a 32, it's usually our center and guard or guard and tackle that are looking for the double team based on the alignment of the defensive line. Super simple. If we're going 3, it's same concept. 4 and 5, those are power, right? So that's C-gap power for us. 4 and 5 is C-gap power. So we know that it's pretty simple with power or gap scheme. If you're running lead, power, counter, ISO in a lot of cases, what's another one? Blast, because that's a different version of lead. If you're running those things, in a lot of cases, it's on, down, backer are the rules. So you're an offensive lineman, and we're coming right off your right side or your right hip, and you have a guy head up on you. You are going one-on-one with this dude. If he is a shade down from you, you are down blocking this guy. If there is nobody in your area, like let's say there's maybe somebody to your right that's in the gap between you and where we're supposed to be running, you will go straight to backer because there's nobody on you, there's nobody down from you, so you go straight to backer, whereas whoever's to the right of you would be blocking down on that defensive lineman. They're stupid simple rules. Stupid simple rules. And that's why I think it's going to help our run game this year. You have receivers, Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers. On top of that, Trey Tucker, who I think is going to emerge this year because of his speed. He's going to have an excellent year because of his speed. Maybe he doesn't catch a ton of balls, but I think his yards per catch are going to be absolutely nuts because there aren't a lot of safeties or not a lot of linebackers that can cover a guy like that in the slot. It's that simple. Your tight ends. Let's talk about the tight ends. Brock Bowers was one of my favorite picks in the entire draft. Not just because he's a Raider, because he was one of the best players in the entire draft, and I can't believe he fell to 13. I just can't believe it. Do I think that if Michael Penix would have fell, they would have taken him? Probably. I do believe the Raiders would have done that because that is such a Raiders thing to do. 100%. Do I think Michael Penix would be an upgrade over Aiden O'Connell? Possibly. It's possible. But I love the pick because Brock Bowers adds an athlete to your team that is so versatile. The defenses that play you have to decide how you're going to defend this kid because he runs routes like a receiver. He does. He runs routes like a slot receiver, but then he's not afraid to pull and knock linebackers on their ass. Like really physical presence. You got to love that. Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer was somebody that the Raiders drafted early in the second round last year. He was a first round talent, but he was drafted early in the second round last year. You have a duo you have an absolute duo of tight ends that are going to dominate. And then you look at your running back room. We just talked about it. Luke Madison, he's going to play really well. Alexander Madison's going to play really well. He averaged 4.7 yards per carry last year. He's probably not even going to be the bell cow guy because you have Zamir White. You have some really unique weapons for Aiden O'Connell to play through. It doesn't have to be on Aiden O'Connell. If the Raiders are very smart, if they game plan well, if they run the ball well, and Aiden O'Connell takes advantage of wide open receivers because there's going to be a ton of them if you run the ball well, the defense is going to have a lot of stress taken off of them, and Aiden O'Connell is going to have a ton of stress taken off of them. This whole team is looking to play team football, legitimate football, run the ball, play great defense, and take advantage of play action shots. If you do that, I promise you guys, I think we're looking at a winning season. I think we're looking at 10 wins. I think we're looking at a playoff position. I'm not going to pick the Raiders, obviously, over the Kansas City Chiefs because they haven't earned that yet. We've beaten them like one time in 4 years. Okay? But in all reality, guys, if any team were to compete in this division, it's going to be the Raiders. It's going to be the Raiders. And you can't tell me any different. They were the last team in our division to actually beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I'm going to be real with you guys. Chiefs are just loaded. They have one of the greatest coaches of all time. By the way, he's on my list. Andy Reid is on my list for one of the greatest NFL coaches of all time. And you can't change my mind. There's just no way. Bill Belichick's the top guy. But then I'm back and forth between Bill Walsh and Andy Reid. Andy Reid has his shit together, and they are dialed in Kansas City. It's very frustrating. It's very frustrating as a Raiders fan. I hate it. But this team is built well. And as long as Antonio Pierce doesn't get it in his own way, and he listens to his advisors, that is the one key I think Antonio Pierce has that a lot of other coaches don't have. A lot of other coaches don't have an experienced guy like Marvin Lewis in their ear. Talking to them about defense, talking to them about player development, talking to them about how to handle day-to-day things that you just don't really see all the time as fans. On top of that, you have a guy like Joe Philbin, who is a journeyman coach, who was a head coach at one point and a very experienced offensive coordinator. He's also on staff. You have 2 former head coaches on your staff. You have a wealth of knowledge from Rob Ryan that you can pick his brain, right? And I'm sure Rex's crazy ass is in that building from time to time. I just think Antonio's in a really good spot. Am I happy they picked Antonio? Yes. Did I want Jim Harbaugh? You guys already know the answer to that. But we got Antonio Pierce, and I'm behind him 100%, dude. I think this whole team and the culture of this team is completely different than what we saw a few years ago. And all we had to do was get rid of that little ass boy, Josh McDaniels. I don't know why I said little ass boy. I just love Max Crosby. All right? And I can't believe Gardner Minshew, the other little ass boy, is on our team. It is what it is. Great backup situation. Great backup situation. If Aiden struggles, you have an experienced guy to come in. It's that simple. This is the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Kayle Henderson. You guys can get at us on our Twitter forums, at SinCity_IESR, at Kayle_Henderson. We talk all things Vegas sports. If you guys missed the show, do not worry about it. We have every forum known to man where you can go back and listen to the show, okay? Known to man and woman. Sorry. 2024. Go to iesportsradio.com/SinCitySports. Go to iesportsradio.com in general. Check out my teammates. Check out the other shows. Re-listen to some of our podcasts because we have a long history of making sense here on the Sin City Sports Show. This is the fastest growing market, guys. I'm excited to be the host here. I think we got big things coming. I was just talking to Larry B about, whiteboards that we can share, that we can use in real time while we're doing these StreamYards. And we're talking about plays that worked and plays that didn't, whether it's UNLV or Las Vegas, the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm excited to show you guys some of the whiteboard work, man. Breakdown. It's going to be a lot of fun. As always, folks, we'll see you next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Love, peace, and hair grease, folks.